What is up, guys? Welcome back to a brand new Pokemon Masters video. Today, we're going to be talking about a bunch of things that you probably missed from the trailer for Pokemon Masters. Let's go ahead and get right into it. All right, guys, so first and foremost, I do want to go ahead and go over this screenshot in particular because there's a lot of information here. Now, first off, it's really important to note here, we see 1,231 damage being dealt as a super effective hit. Now, obviously, that doesn't come from any stat lineup you'll see in the main series games, which means most likely we're not looking at a copy and paste stat lineup job from the main series to this game. It's looking like it's probably going to be something entirely separate, which is probably really good for this game, if I'm being honest. So guys, moving on to this part of the screenshot, we have got the average move set. Now, there are a few bits of information to glean from this part of it because we don't know a lot of things here, but we do know a few things. So there are limited use moves, which only can be used a certain amount of times every match. There are also infinite use moves that can only be used if you have the required move gauge restored. So there's going to be 2 bars here, 3 bars there for Leaf Storm and Bullet Seeds. So you're going to have that much of the gauge restored, which restores live over time. It's a real time type of thing. It's not a turn by turn type of thing. So that's actually kind of really cool and interesting. But on top of that, we also see that other characters do have limited use moves in varying amounts. So Acerola here does have 3 limited use moves, and then we see 2 here and then 2 there. So it's a little bit of an interesting concept here that you're going to have certain amounts of limited use moves and maybe no limited use moves on certain characters, or maybe even just varying amounts of those limited use moves that you can only see once here for Acerola for one of the moves and then 2 for the other 2. So it's kind of an interesting dynamic, and I'm not exactly sure how it's going to impact the game overall. Obviously, we don't have very much information, again, on stat lineups or anything like that, movesets or anything like that as well. But there is a little bit of information here, so I did want to go ahead and discuss that. So, guys, before we move on to the next screenshot, I do want to discuss these symbols really quickly. They probably mean either buffs or debuffs given by either your teammates, your trainers, or possibly even debuffs given by opponents. We don't know what that means exactly yet and how impactful those are going to be, but there are those little symbols there which you may have missed out on in the trailer. All right, guys, so the next thing I want to talk about is this particular screenshot, which is a sync move. Now, we don't know a lot about sync moves at this point in time. If you go back to the other screen, you're not going to see something that sticks out as a possible button that you can push for a sync move. Obviously, trainer moves are something different entirely, so maybe it's something that after a certain amount of time, a button pops up. Maybe after a certain amount of move gauge restored, a button pops up. We don't know exactly how they're initiated at this point, if it's something only certain sync pairs have, or if it's just something that, pops up after a given amount of time, given amount of move gauge restored. We just don't know at this point. Now, another thing I do want to talk about here is something that's really interesting, and again, a different sort of thing that you're going to only see with Pokemon Masters. We have trainer moves, the 5th move that are in each move set. Now, we don't know, again, exactly all of the different trainer moves and what they can do, but they are definitely interesting. There's going to be debuffs that you can give out to opponents. There's going to be health restore that you can give out to your team. There's going to be buffs you can give out to your team, and then interestingly, if you go on to this particular screenshot, you're going to see that you can actually use certain trainer moves to restore move gauge, which could be, again, another dynamic that's used commonly to sort of combo out opponents, maybe deal a little bit more damage more quickly, because it does look like you can restore a decent amount of move gauge by using this particular trainer move. So it's kind of interesting to just point that out. I'm not sure, again, how impactful all of this is going to end up being, but it's definitely something that's going to add just that much more depth to the game. Now, I don't know, honestly, if anybody has actually brought this up at this point in time or not. Obviously, a lot of people have dissected this trailer, and a lot of people have pointed out things that are really, really interesting, maybe that flew under the radar for most people. But I haven't really caught up to all that content yet, so I don't know if anybody's pointed this out yet. But towards the end of the trailer, there's this giant montage of a whole bunch of screenshots and different moves and animations and things like that. And in this particular, montage, you do see there is an actual Mega Evolution. You see Lucario off to the left here. That's base form Lucario. And then you see Mega Lucario off to the other side. So it's actually a really interesting thing. We've gotten 2 confirmations, one with Snivy and Superior, I believe. that, you know, in the promotional shots, there's a Superior, and then in game, there's Snivy. So we don't know exactly how evolution is going to work, but we now have 2 confirmations that there is going to be some type of evolution in this game. Now, guys, one final thing I want to mention that pretty much everybody has caught on to, but many of you guys probably aren't familiar with if you're not familiar with gacha games, is that this game is free to start with purchasable items. Now, that is going to mean that it's probably going to have summoning of some kind, which we don't know, again, exactly how gouging it's going to be at this point. So we're going to have to wait and see exactly what in-app purchases they're offering. It could be much better than expected. It could be something very, very non-intrusive, but I kind of doubt that because DNA is sort of notorious for monetizing their games very, very price gougingly. So yeah, guys, that is pretty much it for today's video. Definitely let me know down in the comment section below if you picked up on anything else in the trailer that I probably should have noticed. But I went ahead and watched it probably about 20 times and just screenshotted where I thought were the most impactful, most informative screenshots and wanted to go over a few of them with you guys. So again, let me know what you think down in the comment section below. I hope you all have a fantastic day, and I hope you're as excited as I am for this game. I think it's going to be a really, really fun thing to cover on the channel, but I will see you in the next one. Until then, have a fantastic day, guys. Peace.